Hello, I am Anne Marie Root, Mrs. Royalty International, and you are with us today for Live Every Breath. Today, joining me, I have my friend, Karli Sherman. She is Ms. Louisiana World Universal, and we met through our mutual pageant coach, actually, which is pretty amazing. So, Karli, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go from there.
Oh my gosh, I would love to. Thank you, Anne Marie, for having me on this amazing show to talk about one of my all-time favorite topics, which is adoption. I'm so excited and grateful that I get to be part of this. My name is Karli. I am Ms. Louisiana World Universal. I get to compete for Ms. USA here in just like 2 months. Whew, so excited. And I live in Lafayette, Louisiana. I am 36 years old and I am a small business owner. I own Karli Sherman Productions. I'm a professional speaker, leadership coach, and executive coach. And I do some pageant coaching because I've been involved with the world of pageantry for over 20 years as a contestant and director and MC and judge and coach and all of it. And so it's one of those areas of my life that has given so much to me. And so I want to be able to give back.
That is so awesome. I love that you are a pageant coach and you also have a pageant coach because I think sometimes people think you like get to a level where you like don't need help anymore.
Right.
And I think that continuing to grow and challenge ourselves in every aspect of our lives
Mhm.
helps us to
Mhm.
stay young, stay on top of things, and constantly learning. So I love that. I love that. So Karli, what do you do for what is Karli Sherman Productions? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So it is me. Ha! I'm a business of fun, but it is me. So I'm a speaker and leadership coach. So I get to travel around the country virtually and in person and do professional development workshops and keynotes and individual coaching. And so I work with companies, I work with nonprofits, civic groups, college students, different organizations and teams, and help teach them professional development to make them learn better, communicate better, live better, work better, right? And just create better human connection. It's
All
pretty,
right.
I dig it.
Is there like what is like your favorite topic to speak on when you do that?
Oh, oh, I have a lot of really fun topics, right? I just did a presentation this week about courageous leadership, which was really cool. So I really love leadership philosophy. I teach conflict management. That one's really fun. I use stuffed animals, and that's always, you gotta make fun. You can't just get out here and just drone on about some topic like, ew, gross. No, like we have to make this engaging. We have to make this fun. It's it's got to be a whole vibe, right? If you really want to learn, if you really want people to take this information and apply it and use it and learn it, not just hear it go in one ear and out the other, but if you really want people to take something and apply it, it's got to be exciting, it's got to be fresh, it's got to be fun, right? And so I do love conflict management. I love personality inventory assessments. I'm
Mm,
certified in True Colors. I also Strengths Quest is another one of my favorites. I've taken just about any and every personality typology out there. I love them. I'm like big fan, big fan. I think they're fun, but they're also like massively useful. So big fan.
I love them as well. And I haven't ever heard of True Colors.
Oh, yeah.
So that's something I'm going to have to explore. I love them because I feel like when you understand personalities, it just gives you such a huge upper hand on understanding people, where they're coming from, how to communicate with them. Even like in my marriage and with my children, when I understand those things, and I understand also like when you add that in with like learning styles,
Yeah.
you can really help your communication with people and seeing the world from their perspective, which I think is a key to good communication.
It's huge. Yeah. And people don't understand. One of the traps, there's several traps that people fall into with personality typologies, is they only learn their style or their type
Mhm.
or their number or their color or whatever. And they don't learn all the other ones. which is why most typologies have a very small amount of types. There's usually four. Sometimes, like Myers-Briggs has 16. And actually,
Mm.
if you know the history of the evolution of personality typologies, Myers-Briggs came at a time when they were like, "Oh, we want more." Like this was super popular. It was like the 1950s, 60s. And they were like, "Oh, this idea of personality is really popular. We want more. We want more." So they took existing research and typology and dove into it and made 16 types. But what we found was that people were not learning all 16. They were just learning
Mm.
theirs. And that's a problem, right? That's not what it's for, first of all. It's so we can, like you said, interact with other people, understand how to communicate better, how to resolve conflict better, how to parent better, how to lead better, because we understand other people's types, not just our own.
Yeah, that is really, really important. It's hard though sometimes to remember all 16 of those. And
Right.
so like
Exactly.
I really like the animal ones because then I can go like, oh, there's four basic animals, and then you can kind of get the general idea. You may not know all of the little nitty-gritty details, but you have a general idea of like what people are like. I am a lion otter. So I want to get things done. I want to stay focused on my goal. And if possible, have fun while we're doing it.
I
So
love
that's the best scenario for me is like, let's be accomplishing something, let's be changing the world and having fun while we do it. So
I love that. Yes. I'm a fan.
my husband, on the other hand, is like the beaver lion. So he needs to analyze everything and work on everything and have a plan, and then we can get everything done. So learning how to work together and understanding that has been key to us having a successful marriage for 23 years. So
I agree. I
because
think
I can be a little overwhelming. I mean, like,
I
well,
love it.
like I'm an idea person. So when we would first get married, I have a million ideas. Not that I think we should do every idea, but I like to share a million different ideas. And he is like an analyst. So he would be like, oh my God, she wants me to do all these things.
He's like, I need time. I need space to sit with this information.
I know one conversation gives him a year's worth of things to do, just because I have all these wonderful ideas. But it's those sort of ideas that help drive you to do things and accomplish stuff. And so, one of the things that you and I both are passionate about is adoption,
Yes.
kind of from two different perspectives. So, I'm an adoptive mom, and I adopted a teenager from foster care. She moved into our home when she was 17. And then we adopted her a couple of months after her 18th birthday. So that was really world changing for us and for her as well. And the statistics around teens in foster care who age out,
Not good.
they're not good. They're just not good. So you, however, have the adoption story from the other side. So tell me a little bit about your story and your passion.
Yes. So I was adopted when I was 5 days old. I say that January 26th, 1986 was the best day of my life because it was the day that I became Karli Sherman and it was the day I was adopted. And it was arranged actually right before I was born. Louisiana law in 1986 has to do with the baby. You cannot be adopted before it's 5 days old. So I was chilling in the hospital for 5 days before my parents got to take me home. So I actually have two birth certificates, which is pretty cool. I have one where the first name just says baby and the last name is my birth mother's last name. And then I have the birth certificate I got when I was 5 days old and I was adopted that has my name and my parents' name on it, which is pretty cool.
That is very cool.
Right? I know.
Yeah.
I have always known, well, I found out actually recently that my parents told me when I was in first grade, I was about 6 years old when they told me, uh, because there was some project at school about family something. I don't know, like where your family, I don't remember what it was. I have no idea. And
Like
my
a
parents,
family tree project or
something,
something, family
something like,
heritage. Yeah.
and my parents were like, and so they actually worked with my first grade teacher, which I thought was pretty cool, on like how to tell me. And I was like, okay. And they were like, that was easy. So, which is about the age you start making long-term memories, right? So, from my perspective, I've known I was adopted forever because you don't really remember much before you were 5 or 6, right? So, I've always known, and I've always been really proud of it. And I didn't know that there was this stigma or like social weirdness around the idea of adoption until I was probably in junior high. And a friend of a friend came up to me after school and was like, oh my gosh, I mean, someone just told me they're just, I just, are you adopted? And I was like, yeah, I am. Why? What's up? And she's like, and like ran away. And I was like,
Mm.
okay. So then later on that night, her parents call my parents, put me on the phone and make her apologize, asking me that. And I was like, is why does she have to apologize? I don't understand what she's apologizing for. So then my parents had to have that conversation and try to explain that society apparently has some weirdness around the idea of adoption.
Mm.
And I spent years asking people, what is society telling you? Because I wasn't told that clearly.
Yeah.
I was given the message that family is not defined by blood. Family is about
Mm.
relationships, which is why you can choose family. You don't have to participate in your biological family. Like family is chosen. It's about relationships, not about DNA. And I thought everyone was on board with that, but apparently, so
Yeah.
it was years until I gathered enough people who would be open and honest with me and have some like really cool
Mm.
conversations that were like, yeah, um, it's not talked about because it's adopted children are seen as unwanted. Like it's sad for you because you were like abandoned or not wanted. And I was like, no, that's not it. Like that's not it at all. Like if you just
Mhm.
stop and think about it for like, I don't know, 30 seconds, you'll see that it's the exact opposite, right? Like my 17-year-old birth mother loved me so much that she knew she could not give me the life that I deserve. She knew she could not give me my best shot, right? And she said, I want this child to have its best shot at life, and that is not with me. Do you know how like the unconditional love you have to be able to say that as a biological mother, when we know we are like programmed as women, as mothers, when you give birth, there's like this release of chemicals in your body that like make you love the baby that you just had, and to then still be able to say, you know what, it's not me. Like that's that is incredible. What the strength, the beauty, the selflessness, like that is the definition of unconditional love, right? So
Yes. Hmm.
no, we weren't unwanted. We were unloved. We were so loved. We were immensely and unconditionally loved that we were given our best shot at life. That's incredible. That's incredible.
When we first met and you talked to me about this perspective, I loved it so much because so often society does look at the child as like, ooh, they were unwanted. And so many people that I've talked to that were adopted have struggled with the thoughts of, why wasn't I good enough for my parents? Why didn't they want me? Why couldn't they love me enough? And I think some of that, like you said, is a societal thing that we teach people, that instead of the perspective that you carry. And another friend of mine has the same perspective. I was talking to him, and he's the oldest of 9 adopted children.
That's cool.
And he said, my 16-year-old birth mother showed me more love than anybody ever could, that unconditional love, where she said the same thing as your birth mom, that I'm unable to care for this child and I want to give them their best option, their best life, and sacrificing their right to be the parent. And wow, as a mom, I have 3 biological children and 1 adopted child. And just like I would do anything for my kids, absolutely anything. I would die for them. I would travel to the ends of the earth to save my children from harm, and to come to the realization, like, I've thought about this since my conversation with you. Would I do that? I mean, I would probably try everything I possibly could, but if I knew that I was unable to be the parent that my children needed, I would make the same choice because I want the best for them. And if I was unable to do that for whatever my circumstances are, I would choose that best too. So
I love it. I
it,
also believe that I know that my mother was my soulmate, first of all. Like there's a scene in an episode of Sex in the City that made me think of this. I saw it years ago, like learning life lessons from Sex in the City, right? It, it's one of the scenes where, the 4 women are sitting at lunch and talking about men and whatever. And Carrie says, like, what if our soulmates aren't our husbands or boyfriends or our partners? Like, what if it's us? Like, what if our soulmates are our girlfriends? And
mhm,
that was the first time I'd ever heard that idea proposed, that you could associate the word soulmate with someone who wasn't a romantic partner. So then I really
mm,
got thinking about it, and what is a soulmate, and have I ever felt that connection where it's not just an affinity for someone or a love for someone, but you are connected at the deepest, most core part of your existence as a human. Like, whoa. And I was like, yeah, it was my mom. My mom was 100% my soulmate. And I know that I was meant to be her child,
mm,
100%. My parents tried for years to have children. They wanted like a whole bunch of kids. And my mom went through fertility treatment and all kinds of stuff before they chose adoption. And they could not physically have children together, which led to adoption. But I have no doubt in my mind, I am so sure in the very fibers of my being, I am so sure that I was meant to be their child and they were meant to be my parents. They just couldn't physically create me. Someone else had to do that for them, but I was never hers. I was meant to
mm,
be my parents' child, 100%. So I believe there's a lot of that going on too. Um, your soul is as a family is are meant to be together. It just, our bodies are the packaging for our souls, and my parents couldn't create this package. Someone else had to do that, but my soul was always theirs. I was going to end up with
mm.
them, right?
That's so beautiful.
I've told
It's
that to a friend of mine who was divorced and had kids, and a very, very unhealthy marriage and ugly divorce and all of that. And she's like, yeah, but I'll never regret it because, I have my kids from it. I was like, I love that. Big fan.
mhm,
I would also argue that even in situations like that, your kids would still have been your kids. You may have had them with someone else or have adopted them or whatever, or maybe they were stepchildren. But I believe your souls would have found each other. They just may have been packaged differently because they may have come to you in a different form. But I 100% believe if they're meant to be your kids, then they would have been, whether he was
yeah.
there or not, you know.
Our daughter AJ, we have sometimes like looked at photos when our other children were younger, and my biological daughter Deanna and I have literally gone like, where was AJ in this photo? And it was just like, oh yeah, wait a minute. She wasn't part of our family at that time, but she is just like what you're saying. She was meant to be our daughter.
Oh yeah.
And like her situation is so interesting and unique because her mom was an addict when she came into our home. Her dad had passed away and she was in the foster care system. But now her mother has been clean for, I think, almost 3.5 years.
Wow.
And they're establishing a relationship. And I have a relationship with her biological mom. And we even AJ and I, her biological mom, and my daughter Deanna all went on a mother-daughter retreat together back in May. So, there's like her mom was a part of her life for a reason, then couldn't be because of trauma in her own life.
Mhm.
And now that she's dealing with that and getting healthy, she's able to be a part of my daughter's life again. And I think it's wonderful. I mean, my husband and I look at it like we were meant to be AJ's parents and we were meant to be here for her. We will always be AJ's parents. And we get to share this privilege with her biological mom. And so it's pretty awesome. So,
Yeah, I love hearing stories about people who have open adoptions or just have either from foster care, which is because I wasn't adopted through foster care, it was a private adoption. And in Louisiana in the 80s, all adoptions were closed. So there was no open adoption option. And so I think it's really cool to hear people who have that option and have like created this cool blended family through that. That's like so cool.
mhm. Yeah, I think it comes with, some obstacles sometimes and
Okay.
things like that and maneuvering all of that. And I think it would have been a lot harder if AJ had come into our lives when she was younger and we had to do kind of this parent share thing. But now that she's an adult and we can talk to her and our biggest concern is always that she's safe and safe from um, bad relationships or whatever. But thankfully, that's not where her mom is right now. And it is to me a huge success story that her mother was able to get some freedom from her addiction. And of course, yes, like once you're an alcoholic, you're always an alcoholic. Once you're an addict, you're always an addict. But she is a recovering addict.
Yeah.
And that is awesome because now she is able to have freedom as well and be able to live a successful life, which is really the ultimate goal, is to help people live a better life and be able to get free from the trauma in their lives and learn how to live um, not just as survivors, but as thrivers in life.
Yeah.
So I
Friday.
know that we both work with the organization that I work with, the Real Hope Project, we partner a lot with Wendy's Wonderful Kids, which is part of the Dave Thomas Foundation. And I know that besides pageantry and our love for adoption, you also work with the Dave Thomas Foundation. So can you tell us just a little bit about what the Dave Thomas Foundation is and how you're involved?
Yeah, I have been a fan of this organization for years, and I really love the work that they're doing with foster care. They work to provide resources and programs to help kids, specifically older kids, get adopted because we know that the older a child gets, the less adoptable they are. I hate that thought. I hate that phrase. I hate everything about it, but it is their reality. And so Wendy's Wonderful Kids is a program through Dave Thomas Foundation for Adoption that works with states to be able to give attention and resources to some of these older kids so that they can find their
Mhm.
forever homes, because everybody wants a baby, right? They all want to
Yeah.
adopt a baby and go through the entire child raising process and all of its phases, which fine, cool. But there are still like hundreds of thousands of kids in foster care who are ready for adoption, right?
Mhm.
And I love that Dave Thomas Foundation for Adoption is nationwide. So there are resources across the country, and they're helping these older kids who, and none of these kids like chose to go to foster care. Like, none of this is their
It's
fault.
true.
And I think people
It's
get
true.
wrapped up in this like, I don't I don't know what they get wrapped up in. A lot of like weird myths or something, but like none
Yeah.
of the kids chose this for themselves. Like they
They
didn't
think
do
they
anything
think they're there because they're
jail.
naughty kids.
Right. They
Yeah.
didn't, this isn't jail. You're not adopting someone out of like juvenile detention center. They didn't do anything to get put there. This isn't their fault.
Right.
Right. Like
Right.
they're just regular kids who,
I always say that their kids in foster care are the victims of other people's choices. And
yep,
they're not naughty kids. They might be kids who act out, but they are not naughty. That's not why they're there. They're there because they're the victims of other people's choices and they have trauma in their life now.
right. As do other children of their biological parents. Oh, y'all acting like all y'all biological children are so perfect and like don't misbehave and have no issues. No.
No, that's also a myth. We think that, if you invite one of these kids, especially a teen, I mean, teens have a reputation of being difficult anyhow, right? Because we're exploring transitioning from being a child to an adult and all of that
The
stuff.
weirdest point of human transition, like of all the ages a human could possibly be, teenage years are like the weirdest, most awkward, most just heinous form of human transition. It's, and you could even be like pretty and nice and have no trauma in your life and it's still weird. And
Yeah,
it's just the weirdest point of human transition. It's not good.
yeah, yeah. So, I mean, you look at teenagers and you see that, and then you see a teenager that's in foster care who's had some trauma. And then you're like, ooh, I'll take a baby that's had no trauma. And yet, research is finding that even in the womb, there is trauma
Mm,
and attachment disorders and all this stuff that even babies can be born with that we have to understand. You can't parent a child that has been involved with foster care, adoption, those things, the same as you would a biological child, because of that trauma in their life. But I love that Wendy's Wonderful Kids focuses on teens because, of course, we adopted a teen. So my heart is for teens in foster care, finding their forever families. And we've worked really closely, the Real Hope Project, with Wendy's Wonderful Kids in the state of Wyoming. And they have been a huge driving force of connecting us and helping us. And we partner together with them all the time. So
that's awesome.
I love the work that they're doing, their connections that they have across the state, and that the Dave Thomas Foundation focuses on that education and specifically on teen adoptions, so out of foster care. So
They do a really great job. They're a really great social media follow. If anybody is looking to add just some information to your news feed, Dave Thomas Foundation is a really great social media follow because they tell a lot of stories of different
mhm.
kids who they've helped, but they also give a lot of information and statistics and history, and so you get both, right? You get the like warm fuzzy side, but you also get the information side. So they do a really good job of that too.
Yeah, I think that's one of the keys. And this is something that we see all the time is the educational side of foster care and adoption now that wasn't there when you were a child, when I was a child, even 10 years ago. The information that's coming out about trauma informed parenting and all of those things that are now assets to families that are looking to do foster care and foster care adoption, that those resources are there and they're growing and more doctors and psychologists, and all of these people are becoming more aware of that and have more assets for you. Like one of the hugest common things that we hear a lot is about kids in foster care stealing from you. And then you do a little bit of asking and you find out, well, they're stealing food and they're hoarding it in their closet. And so trauma informed parenting then helps you to say, but why are they doing that? And then you find out they're probably doing that because they had food insecurity where they came from.
Mhm.
Maybe they didn't have food. And even though you say you're welcome to anything, their mind is still like, one day I might come home and there'll be no food in this house and I'm going to starve. So it's
Or
their survival technique.
locks on the refrigerator and the pantry, or food was used as a control mechanism or a weapon. Like, yeah.
Yeah. There's so many things like that that by now understanding that there's now methods, like a simple one there is letting the kids go grocery shopping with you and picking out their own food that they can keep in their room. That they can have that comfort until one day they realize that I don't have to have it in my room anymore. It's always here for me at home. But that takes time. Going from a survivor to a thriver is a huge transition, and it takes time. So, uh, well, Karli, our time is just about up here. Is there any last minute thoughts or anything that you'd like to share with our audience today? Or how could they reach out to you?
Yes. Oh my gosh. I would love to have conversations about this. I would love to talk adoption and pageantry and fundraising for causes that you're passionate about. Like, yes. So you can 1000% reach out to me. DM me on the social medias, right? My personal social media is at Karli Glitter, KarliGlitter, right? So you can find me on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, Karli Sherman, right? If you're old school and you want to go Facebook. I'm also at Karli Sherman Productions if you want to see my business stuff, but totally DM me or email me at karlisherman.com. And my website is karlisherman.com if you want to check out what I do there. I would absolutely love to have conversations that would it would make my day. I tell people that all the time. Like at the end of my keynotes and my workshops, and I'm like, you can totally reach out to me, and very few people ever do. Every once in a while, I'll get like a text or an email, and I'm like, that just made my day. Thank you. So I'm like, really, for real, reach out to me. It would like really make my day.
That's awesome. Karli, thank you so much. It's always like I love your Karli glitter because even without a crown, you glitter, my friend. You glitter. So um, good luck and go out there and show them who you are and just wow the world like you are. Thank you so much for being a person who lives every breath and continues on. Next time on the show, I am going to have Jessica White. She is the CEO of Sexual Exploitation and Abuse Child Protection Agency. And I'm going to have her talk about recognizing the signs of sexual abuse. Because so many times there are kids that, and even adults, that have been sexually abused and they don't remember it, they don't recognize it. But as other people in their lives, if we can help recognize those, we can help them deal with that trauma. So, Karli, again, all of your information is going to be tagged up here. So please reach out to Karli. She is an amazing human being, and I am really grateful to call her my friend. So
Thank you
until
so much.
next time, please like and subscribe, and we will see you next time. Thank
Yes.
you.
Stay excellent.